We now know officially that Jerry Jones has talked to Deion Sanders about the Cowboys head coach opening. And while Prime has downplayed it, and he's smart, I think he should go. I mean, ultimately, it's his decision. I don't know him personally, but his stock will never be higher than it is right now. Because we don't know how well he'll do at Colorado going forward without Shedeur and Travis, because we have no evidence of him succeeding without them. That isn't to say that Colorado won't keep on improving. They've recruited well and done well in the portal. But the unknown is glaring, and the old saying, strike while the iron hot, has never been more relevant than it is right now. You make your biggest moves when your stock is at its highest. You take your biggest risks when you are peaking, whether that's leveling up or just using it as leverage where you're already at. Now, Deion Sanders was an absolute dog in college, but most of his fame was garnered in the NFL and Major League Baseball. And to me, he fits the league perfectly right now. He doesn't love recruiting, and in the league, you don't have to. He has tons of cachet that even the best players in the NFL playing today still respect. Now, working for Jerry Jones is a tough gig, and Troy Aikman alluded to that yesterday. We'll play the video in a moment. But it does seem Jerry Jones may be a little desperate, and there may never be a better time to be able to do it your way in Dallas under his ownership. Now, I have my doubts about that still, but if anyone can do it, Prime can. And in my opinion, he should. Let's go ahead and play the clip of what Troy Aikman said last night about Mike McCarthy being removed or mutually parting ways. Let's get his take on it. Play the clip.
I don't think Mike will be out of a job for too long, but this job's as coveted as any because you're going to run the Dallas Cowboys. In what direction do you think they ought to look?
Well, I thought Mike McCarthy would be the head coach, so this is a bit of a surprise for me today that he's not going to be. And what went into those conversations that Schefter talked about, I'm not exactly sure, but it suggests that there's not a real plan. I mean, and the fact that they haven't had the opportunity to maybe interview a Ben Johnson and some of these others, Aaron Glenn. I think that what Schefter said as far as Kellen Moore being a candidate, that seems logical to me. A guy who has familiarity with the building. He's worked obviously with the Cowboys and with Jerry Jones, and they know each other very well. In fact, when Mike McCarthy got the job, it was told to Mike that Kellen Moore would be the offensive coordinator. So that's how much the Jones family thinks of him. Beyond that, it's hard to imagine. As far as a coveted job, I don't know that that's accurate. I mean, really? I do think the Cowboys are obviously a high-profile team. Whoever is covered or whoever is head coach of that team is certainly going to draw a lot of attention. But I think most football people that take over as a head coach, they want to do it on their terms.
That's fair.
That's hard to do. And it's, if you take a Dan Campbell, for instance, is Dan Campbell if he's with the Dallas Cowboys? It's hard to imagine that he is. It's hard to imagine that a lot of these coaches might be. So I love the Dallas Cowboys. I played there for 12 years. I wish them well. But to say that it's a coveted job, I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with it.
Wow. And look, nobody has more sources in that organization than legendary Cowboy Troy Aikman. David, we've talked about this Deion Sanders, the Colorado thing as a hypothetical. What do we think about it? But now the report comes out that there's actually been a phone call. Even Deion Sanders even reacted to it. And I've said that I think working for Jerry Jones, exactly what Troy Aikman said, it shouldn't be that coveted of a job. But with the way this has gone down with Mike McCarthy, and as old as Jerry Jones is, now he's rich enough to live forever if there's a pill that can keep you alive forever, but I don't think there is. How do you feel about the Deion Sanders situation? Should he go to the Cowboys? And is the time right now, if you're ever going to be able to put your foot down to Jerry Jones, is that this moment?
Well, the equation to me seems quite simple. Either Jerry Jones is the problem, his current management style is what's holding the Cowboys back from being able to win Super Bowls, which that is the standard. And if that's the case, then it doesn't matter who the head coach is. Deion Sanders doesn't put you any closer to winning a Super Bowl. I hope that's not the case. I have a lot of respect for Jerry Jones. Won 3 Super Bowls, but it doesn't bode well when the guy who was your franchise quarterback, Troy Aikman, comes out and says something like that. I almost couldn't believe it when I heard this news this morning. Or the flip side of that equation is, well, Jerry Jones is not the problem. They're just doing what most of the teams around the league are doing, and that's not winning Super Bowls. at which case I'd still question why you just fired a Super Bowl winning coach who took you to the playoffs 3 consecutive years. So if there's an alternate proposition in there, something like, well, you know what the play here really is to get Deion Sanders, and what we would do is we'd trade Dak Prescott, and then we'd also draft Shedeur, and it would be a 2-for-1. Look, Shedeur Sanders might end up being a great NFL player, but to say that he's so generational that somehow it's worth the risk, or that the Cowboys' entire future hinges on getting Deion Sanders to coach in the NFL for the first time in his life, and then also have Shedeur Sanders, the rookie quarterback, and that's going to set you up in the NFC. I don't know. That seems like a more risky proposition than what you already had to begin with.
Yeah, and to your point about Jerry Jones, he has been they've cycled through coaches. They've cycled through players since they won their last Super Bowl. So if we're, again, I'm not a mathematician, but I do know what a common denominator is. And it seems like the common denominator is Jerry Jones, and there has to be some type of shift with his methodology and thinking. And maybe, zebra never loses his stripes, whatever. But we could be at a point where maybe this is that moment from a Deion wanting to take the job standpoint. And just because Deion takes the job if he does for the Cowboys, doesn't mean that they draft Shedeur. I think there's a world where Deion is more valuable than Shedeur in the NFL, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Dak Prescott. Blaine, I want to stick on with you. Should Deion leave Colorado? Because again, I don't want Colorado fans out there to think that I'm saying that they're going to fall off the map losing Shedeur and Travis. They bring in Caden Salter through the transfer portal. They've recruited well. You got Juju Lewis coming out of high school. But now would be the time. If Deion was ever going to make the jump, because nothing is guaranteed going forward, nothing is guaranteed in the NFL, but what if they go back to winning 3 games or 4 games? If you're Deion Sanders and you get offered the job, now, people talk about the Rooney Rule. You have to interview a couple minority coaches. I don't think that's what this is. Do you take it if you're Deion?
Yes, I think it's not even a question. The real question is Deion going to take the job and let them not go get his son? I think Deion only takes his job if it's almost a guarantee that they're going to get Shedeur Sanders. I would be surprised if he took the Cowboys jobs. Remember, he said he wants to coach both of his sons, so we'll see about that. But there's no way Prime's going to take the Cowboys job and them not go get Shedeur Sanders. How they're going to get him, I don't know. We'll dive into numbers another time. But if I am Prime, I'm leaving Colorado. Why would you not leave Colorado? You'll never be hotter than what you are now. You had a Heisman winner, probably the number 1 pick. We can talk about him and Cam Ward, and a top 5 pick in your son. If there's ever a time the skillet's popping, baby, the grease is hot, you need to go get out, and you can coach America's team. But I know, David, he's not going to take that job unless there's a guarantee that they're going to go get Shedeur Sanders.
Okay, so he said, let's get into it another time. I think let's get into it now. Let's play this scenario out, because I've said for multiple years that Deion Sanders is a daddy coach. He got into coaching because he wants to coach his sons. I've seen it through rec leagues my entire life. I wasn't critical of that. Hey, I think we need more fathers involved in their son's life. But that seemed to me what is the case. So now that there's an opportunity when both of them could go to the NFL to work it out to be able to coach him, it seems likely. 2 things here. One, like I said, I've seen this going around online here. Trade Dak Prescott to the Titans for the number 1 pick so that you go get Shedeur Sanders.
A couple other
Again,
things.
A guy, by the way, maybe it's true Dak Prescott can't win a Super Bowl. Maybe that's true. He's still really, really good. Was really good at Mississippi State. He led the NFL in passing touchdowns just a season ago before he got injured. Let's just all keep that in mind before we just bury the guy. Or what I was talking about with Blaine earlier today, what if there's a John Elway, Eli Manning situation where Deion just says, hey, I'm going to take the Cowboys head coaching job. Shedeur, when you go out, you just say you're not going to play for whoever drafts you, and you're just going to come play for the team I coach.
Well, I mean, there is precedent. We hear this in law all the time. When you have precedent, you have ammunition, and there is a precedent for that. And it was the Manning family, a very reputable brand, just like the Sanders family is a reputable brand. And I think that trade possibility is legitimate, though, because if you're the Cowboys and you want to totally not rebuild, I don't think the right is the right word, but if you want to shift. If you want to change the direction that you've been going, because Dak Prescott has a huge contract that he really just got. So I don't know if there'd be a better time to make that move right now. You get rid of Dak Prescott, you get rid of Mike McCarthy, you bring in Deion Sanders, you bring in a new quarterback. Is this the time to make the shift? That's the question.
You think the Titans would trade the 1st pick for Dak Prescott?
I think that I actually believe, now look, they got to have a GM, They got to hire a GM first. But I think it's plausible. But again, it's like the military. They have equipment that's 30 years ahead of what we get. So these talks have already been going on about moves that are going to be made in the draft. So is there an inkling? Is the reason that Mike McCarthy was let go, or there was a mutual parting of ways, or Jerry didn't meet his demands or whatever, because something has kind of already been put in motion and that decision's been made? Because you don't make it on the day of. That's not how this works.
I mean, if you were in the AFC, maybe. It has to be so frustrating to Cowboys fans to think that we would rebuild right now when the NFC is so gettable. I mean, granted, the Eagles are sort of setting the standard in your own division, but look at what the Redskins are doing. They're younger than you, and the 49ers, who have been the gold standard in the NFC, they're down. It's such a gettable conference right now to rebuild. Man, that's tough.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's get to the chat here.
All right, let's go to Matthew Cunningham. What's up, Matt? He says, bring Mike Tomlin to the Cowboys and Deion Sanders to the Steelers.
Golly. I never put anything past anybody, especially in the NFL. If you're Mike Tomlin, though, I mean, why would you leave Pittsburgh?
They've had 3 coaches in the history of the Steelers.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I don't think him leaving Pittsburgh, they might fire Mike Tomlin.
I think it would take a lot.
All right, let's go to David S. Appreciate it. David Spa is a Cowboys fan. I know the Jones family ultimately value the brand and narrative of the Cowboys being more so that winning the Super Bowl matters the most. This opportunity will keep the Cowboys in the headlines, but I don't think Deion is the answer.
Again, is there a guaranteed success that Deion, or guaranteed that Deion would have success with the Cowboys? There isn't, but when you look at it from the Cowboys' perspective, that's obviously different from Deion's perspective. I like how we've kind of talked about both.
That's such an important point he brought up, though. Does that get you closer to winning the Super Bowls, making that higher, or does that just keep you as the top news story in the NFL? And casuals would love this, right? Deion Sanders back to where he played, and he gets his son somehow. That's a reality TV show for them. It's the same type of people who loved watching the Chiefs just because Travis Kelce's dating Taylor Swift. That's not the concern for most Cowboys fans. They're trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, there's value in both. Remember, if you donate and it's on topic, it will get read.
Let's go to Russell Lee. Jerry Jones needs to be bought out of the NFL and have new owners and a winning coach that wants to play for the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones is the only thing holding the Cowboys back.
I think you can hope that, and you're probably right, but I think Jerry Jones is the one that's going to make that decision, and I think he's going to have to be dead before he's not the GM and owner of the Cowboys. Hey, what's up, YouTube? Want to get to 200,000 subs. Let's make it happen, because I believe in you.